Okay, so this one is about the nature of quantum. So this is going to be quantum from my perspective rather than some scientific explanation. And really meaning, what does quantum mean to me, viewed at through the lens of Trinity or ternary thinking. Meaning that if we're to look at what quantum means, and we're to understand the principles of quantum behavior, what does that look like from a ternary perspective or from the perspective of Trinity? So to preface this, some of you already know, I've developed a blueprint and a method for creative problem solving or system design using the principles of ternary thinking. It's called Trinity, and it's a way of creating an over-unity system or a system that is perpetually wealth generating. Can be applied to software and hardware systems, but it utilizes paradox. So you're perpetually seeking to leverage the potential of paradox, whereby every truth within that system, every reality is also true from the opposite perspective, and a seemingly contrasting perspective. So it has to make sense in binary, and it has to make sense in infinity, from a singular perspective and from a dualistic perspective. Now those things are seemingly conflicted, but in truth, there is space for everything to coexist simultaneously without conflict, and in perpetuity. So I'm working on Trinity is really about a proof of principle that I'm working on. In science, if a scientist comes across something fundamentally new in terms of that challenges a current law of known physics or any form of science, then the beginning of that process is really to develop a proof of principle. Can I replicate this within reality to demonstrate the principle in nature? And from there, you would then, apply it in some form of concept. So you develop a concept, and then, based on whatever assumptions you have to make. Scientists, typically what they do is, when they have a conjecture about a new principle, they're perpetually seeking to refute that conjecture until they're actually looking for evidence that refutes their conjecture. And when they cannot find evidence that it's not true, that's when they move it forward. And that's the brilliance of a scientific mind, is they're relentless in their pursuit of failure. They're trying to seek failure, and if they can't, they're like, well, this is fundamentally true. So in the same way, this has been my approach. And in the context of Trinity or ternary thinking, I cannot find evidence of this not being true. And I've searched for evidence in the natural world, and I've seen evidence of it taking place. However, without experimentation, without measuring and proving and stuff like that. So, the reason I want to dive into quantum is because quantum holds the key to understanding the principle that I'm about to share with you. And so let's begin there. So quantum, if you think about the essence of the word quantum, it's really derived from the word quantity. So a quantum is something that can be measured, something that can be captured. And when we talk about quantum behavior, we typically think about tiny little packets of information that can be measured But then when we look at quantum behavior and we look at the nature of superposition, where something can take on multiple positions in linear time and space simultaneously, then kind of, that's where kind of things start falling apart, and you're kind of like, well, how is that possible? And so Trinity explains this as a principle. So quantum, if you imagine, so the principle is that infinity is the nature of all existence. It's the fabric of all existence. There's no beginning, there's no end. It is a singularity. It is a singular perspective. And it is all encompassing. It contains everything and nothing and everything in between. So it is the full gamut of possibility, probability, potentiality, but it is devoid of motion. So there is zero motion. There is 0 point. There's zero fixed point at time and space. It's pure just isness. And so in that scenario, you cannot measure anything. There's nothing to measure. There's no quantum. There's no packet of information that I can measure, because there's no point. There's 0 point. There's no fixed point at time and space. So how can I measure something that doesn't have linearity, that doesn't exist in 3 dimensions or even 2 dimensions? And this is the beauty of binary. So if you imagine, so if I'm going to take you through a physical example of how quantum comes into existence. So I were to say to you, just sit where you are and bring your awareness inside your body and to concentrate on a fixed point within your body, whether it's one of your organs or whether it's just a position inside your body. You might choose your abdominals, you might choose your shoulder, you might choose a finger. And then, so you close your eyes and you devote your awareness to that fixed point within your collective body. So you're consciously imagining linear time and space, and you're focusing all of your awareness on that fixed point. So to guide you through the process of unfoldment of infinity, imagine just being pure awareness. So you've just closed your eyes and you are not fixed on any point in time and space. It's just pure isness. You're in a total state of awareness. You're not focusing on anything in particular. You're just there. Now you bring your awareness to your fingertip and you focus all of your energy on a fixed point in time and space, which is your fingertip. And you'll notice pressure. You'll notice pressure. So as the pressure builds, you continue to focus on it. Builds in pressure, grows in pressure. So you're constraining your awareness to a fixed point in time and space. You're intentionally imbuing it, willing it into 3 dimensions. You see? So this is the beginning of quantum. So imagine now over eons of time, or maybe not even that long, the awareness of infinity. In the beginning, it had 0 awareness of a fixed point in time and space. Then at some moment, it became aware that it could focus its awareness on a single point, fixed point in time and space. Pressure builds and builds and builds over time, but they don't break focus. It remains consciously aware of applying pressure to a fixed point in time and space Now, what do we know about pressure? We know that the state of absolute pressure produces plasma. It produces a sun. So some form of sun. Now, if you, let's say, as an example, in the desert, totally dry, completely dry, and, let's imagine Tornado Valley in the States. It's really dry for significant parts of the year. And when the soil's not tilled, it becomes very dry and brittle and extremely stagnant. Now, within that stagnation, it's impossible for ionization to happen. There's no circulation. There's no circulation of ions. And so in that scenario, high pressure builds in those areas as if there were some form of awareness focusing its attention upon where there is no zero movement. And when the pressure builds and builds and builds, then we have lightning. Lightning strikes, ionization occurs, and there's rapid movement and circulation of ions. In the same way, if you're sitting at your desk for a long period of time, then you're compressing your body, and then the ions aren't moving through your body. You stand up out of your chair and you have stiffness, you have stagnation. And the solution is movement. You movement, and then circulation can happen and take place. But nonetheless, if you were sitting in a stagnant state and there was zero motion taking place, then inevitably what will happen is pain. Like a shot of pain, like a nerve pain, like a bolt of lightning. And at the end of the day, the reason why that lightning, that bolt, that sharpness of pain takes place in almost zero time is because there's a limit, there's a ceiling to how much stagnation can take place and how much pressure there can be within a fixed point in time and space before motion has to take place. Because there is no, energy is in a constant state of flux. It can't remain stagnant. So within a state of absolute pressure, this is where we see lightning strikes and it creates motion. And if you are a human being and you get nerve pain and that nerve pain shoots, what happens? You jump. You jump in an instant, and then you're forced to move, and then you move, and then there is motion again. So let's go back to quantum now. So a packet. So what is a quantum? Well, if you look at a photon as an example, a photon is a packet of infinity. It's binary infinity. It is the potential. It is pure potentiality, which is the essence of infinity. But it's in binary because it's contained within a packet, and therefore it can move through time and space. So if you imagine that a photon is really the result of concentrated awareness originating within infinity and birthed into binary so that it can exist in 3 dimensions. So there we have a quantum, a packet. We have something that can be measured, and the nature of infinity can express itself in binary within 3 dimensions, which is profound when you think about the purely stagnant state of infinity. Again, remembering, close your eyes, you're in pure darkness, you're not focusing on any fixed point in time and space, there's 0 point. When you willfully focus on a point, fixed point in time and space, pressure builds. If that pressure reaches an absolute state of absolute pressure, then lightning strikes and motion occurs. And so if you consider infinity, that it is devoid of motion, then what do you have when you have energy in motion? You have emotion. You have emotion. Now, some may argue that a photon, or packet of infinity, a wave contained within a fixed point in time and space, is the beginning. But in truth, it is the plasma that is the beginning. It's the lightning that strikes, that is revealed through the state of absolute pressure. That is the first substance. So you in truth, that state of plasma is the primordial state. So electricity, really, electricity is the state of infinity in motion. And everything from there is disintegrated plasma. So from infinity, once we reach a state of absolute pressure within a fixed point in time and space, then plasma creates energy and motion. So it is disintegrated infinity. That's what plasma is. And then it's a perpetual state of stepping itself down and down and down, fragmenting itself in perpetuity. So the nature of reality is that matter is disintegrated infinity. Plasma is disintegrated infinity. Light is disintegrated plasma. Matter is disintegrated light. And here we have the stepping down of infinity into binary. And we can measure it. So quantum, in this context, I want to now focus on quantum behavior. The nature of superposition is a phenomenal thing. And so if you zoom out into the perspective of infinity, you close your eyes, become aware that you are infinity. It's just black, zero fixed point in time and space. And now observe reality in front of you. So you're witnessing reality in binary, in 2 dimensions. You're witnessing all of reality in 2 dimensions, in your mind's eye, but with your eyes closed. Then you notice that you become constrained. You notice that time becomes a major constraint. And time really becomes a major deterrent from enacting your will. And so you may witness pressure, applied pressure within time and space, within linear time and space, within 3 dimensions. And, all of the things that come with pressure, pain, suffering, of course, innovation, adversity, and, how nature takes care of this is through shock. If something remains stagnant for too long, then some form of shock to the system is applied so that motion is imbued into points in time and space where there is so much pressure that stagnation is occurring. And of course, that's not the nature of energy. Nature is that it's in a perpetual state of flux. And so some aspect of nature has to disrupt its patterned behavior to create motion where there is stagnation. And so linear time becomes a pain in the bum. Now, if you're infinity, you don't want to, you can see things happening. You can see nature unfolding, and time becomes a barrier. And so the solution is quantum behavior. And this is how infinity dissolves the barrier that time creates. Time, and truly the nature of infinity, its superpower is the ability to collapse the axis of time. So a human being looking through your two eyes, and let's bring it into context. Let's say, in my day-to-day job, last week we had a 3-day sprint, a design sprint, and it's basically the process of ideating and slowly constraining it to time and space and creating a linear path towards, executing projects that lead to a thing, that lead us to standing up a concept, then going through the motions of proving that concept, etc. And that's very linear. That's very linear, and it is dependent. So we were fixed to 3 days. The sprint took 3 days, and the end result was wholly dependent upon everything that preceded that. A series of exercises and activities that were all constrained to time. So we've got 15 minutes for this, we've got 8 minutes for that, we've got 5 minutes for that. And don't get me wrong, it works well. But there is an alternative. From the infinite perspective, then it is possible to go straight from the beginning to the end and leapfrog it all. And this is where we have superposition. And from the infinite perspective, so this is how you would collapse the axis of time. Is that, so you close your eyes, you're in darkness again, you're not focusing on any fixed point in time and space. And so then you focus on a fixed point in time and space that will collapse the axis of time. And you apply pressure, magnetization. And this is the superpower of applied pressure. When we create a vacuum in a state of absolute pressure, then it is profoundly magnetic. And if you look at a black hole, where the most gravity exists anywhere, the magnetization of that is profound. And so pressure has a quality that is attractive in nature. It draws your attention. The more you focus your attention on a fixed point in time and space, the more gravity it develops, and the more attention it cultivates, and it becomes like a vortex, drawing everything in, drawing in the attention, drawing in light or particles of, like vibration. And this is how all of existence works. This is how all of existence works. We know that quantum behavior, we know that particles are popping into and out of existence all the time, forming superpositions. And those superpositions are determined by attention. What we are focusing on is what is drawing our attention. We're focusing on Facebook, that's what's drawing our attention. If we're focusing on TikTok, that's what's drawing our attention. And so it's kind of like a chicken and egg scenario. We think that compulsive behavior or addiction or, chasing dopamine is the cause. And of course, that's definitely a powerful element of this. But it's really a decision. It's our will. It's a choice to focus our attention upon a single fixed point in time and space, the application on our phone, that is drawing our attention. That's compelling us to continually focus on it and focus on it and focus on it. And so in that scenario, what do you do when, based on the principles I've explained up till this point, what is the solution? What we've done is we've created these centralized fixed points in time and space. Let's say a monolithic company like TikTok or Facebook. And they've become like these black holes that are compelling us towards them, drawing our attention and growing in power. Well, what nature would do is once that pressure builds and builds and builds to the point of stagnation, and you can sense that a lot with Facebook at the moment, it's kind of like the same thing on rinse and repeat. And even though there is motion within it, it's a very stagnant pattern of scrolling and liking and commenting, and the same comments on rinse and repeat, and the same emojis, the same videos trying to capture your attention. It's just devouring attention. It's a machine. It's become a black hole. So, and the space in between interactions is becoming less and less. We see this with YouTube and the average amount of time spent watching a YouTube video. I'm sure in the beginning, maybe it was around 15 minutes, 8 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. And now with TikTok, is the manifestation of our desire of the power of our attention to collapse the axis of time, you see. The space in between interactions is becoming less and less and less. It's moving towards becoming a singularity. Because the less space there is in between interactions, the closer you are to infinity, or to a singularity, to a black hole. So what does nature do in that scenario? We know what it does. Intense, powerful disruption in zero time. Smack. Lightning strikes. The stagnation of that centralized singularity, the stagnation of it reaches a tipping point where it will be disrupted to create motion and to circulate and to recirculate that stagnation so that it moves. And we're seeing this in reality now. We're seeing the decentralization of everything. We're seeing the decentralization of everything. And what I can tell you as an innovation advisor working in the digital space, Web3, AI, blockchain, DAOs, alternative currencies, this is what's coming. This is what's coming. There are viable platforms now, some of them emerging in New Zealand, that are extremely potent. And have the potential to seriously disrupt. And so it's inevitable at this point. And so you can say the same thing about governance. The government, in the Web3 space, there are lots of people who they want to disrupt for the sake of disruption. And I'm not on board with that. I work for a government agency. I believe that every solution is a state of temperance whereby human beings have the power to choose what they want for themselves, rather than one faction determining that it's best for all human beings to have it this way. Because total decentralization of authority doesn't work for people with disabilities. If you can only blink, and that's the only way you can express yourself in the world, using Morse code by blinking to communicate, you have to be able to defer all of your authority. If you have to be sovereign, then you can't live in the world. You need 99.9% of your existence you have to be dependent. So independence, it doesn't work for everyone. There are human beings that want to be able to defer all of their authority to artificial intelligence because they don't trust human beings. Now, some of you might balk at that and go, that's insane. But nothing is more intelligent than super intelligence. The reason we don't trust it is because it's built based on human nature. And if you look at a trustless system, many people trying to build trustless systems so that we can trust it to do remote surgery and control swarms of digital and physical assets, like a hive mind swarm. The thing that makes it trustless is that it's rendered human intermediaries obsolete. That no human being is able to interacts with the system. That it is wholly intelligent and self-organizing, based on deterministic judgments, based on verifiable interactions stored on chain. And, in this scenario, and this is what's really important. If you trust that an AI singularity on a system like that, if you trust it, then you're going to defer your authority to it. It's just that simple. In the same way you trust the website where you do your banking. You trust that there's not a human being that's going to access your passwords and try and access your bank account. So we think we need to be able to trust something absolutely. But the reality is that we all have a risk profile. And there's inherent risk in everything. Nothing is entirely devoid of risk. And so if you use internet banking, you're taking a risk every day. You're not demanding that it's completely trustworthy. You're taking a risk. But what you trust is that if someone does empty your bank account because they've stolen your credentials, you trust that the bank's going to compensate you. So this is how it works. But when you have a system that is so that you can depend on so entirely, that you believe is benevolent, and then you know there are mechanisms, you know that your transactions are being underwritten, but there are no human beings involved, you have a trustless system. And you will be, whether you realize it or not, you will feel safe deferring your authority to that system. It's human nature. Trust just happens. It just unlocks the willingness to let go and receive help. And this is really where I wanted to get to with this podcast episode is, in terms of quantum, is that you are singular and you are binary. You are infinite and you are limited. You are a living, breathing paradox. Every perspective that exists within the full gamut of perception is valid from its unique perspective. You are innocent and you are guilty. So understanding that you are sovereign and you are also powerless. You have total control and you have no control. So your natural state, your infinite state, your primordial state is infinite. Absolute sovereignty, total sovereignty. But you have to be able to, if you want to experience life and if you want to participate in life, you need to become dependent upon somebody else other than you. Because eventually you'll come to realize that the meaning of life is the richness of your interactions. It's about the richness of your interactions, meaning the diversity and the uniqueness. And once you understand this, and you begin to live your life trying to enhance the richness of the interactions, first of all, you're going to try and create opportunities to have interactions more frequently. And you're going to naturally seek to make the nature of those interactions as interdependent as you can. So you want the maximum potential diversity within those interactions, so that the richness of the interaction is enhanced. Because the more you expose yourself to uniqueness, especially uniqueness that is polarized from you, that is opposite or even paradoxical, the richer you become. The richer your life becomes. And this is really what wealth is. This is really what wealth is. And so if we now bring in the perspective of focusing where you focus your attention, if you can have a mindset shift where you're focusing your attention on the richness of your interactions, the diversity and the interdependency of each interaction, then that's where you are applying a pressure, and that is what is drawing the attention of everybody else. If your focus is on distributed diversity, so I just want to say that again, if you're focusing your attention on distributed diversity, and you understand that the sheer volume of opportunities to interact is a key component of that, and then the ability to capitalize on those transactions for the purpose of innovation, you've got, this is the key to life. You've got the key to life. Now, so I work for a government agency, and where, I'm a bit of a square peg in a round hole, in that I'm always trying to create ways to have more interactions, for no reason other than to enhance the richness of my own life. And so, we've got, there's a common perception that, you need to say no. You need to know when to say no. Well, that's not how infinity works. From the perspective of infinity, it's trying to perpetually create more, increase your capability and your capacity to say yes. If your bandwidth is the limitation, it's infinite. It can use superposition. There's infinite space. There's infinite time. And so this is the beauty of delegated authority. And this is where, and this is really where my hope that people who are involved in the Web3 space, who are trying to decentralize everything, is they understand that there's an aspect of your nature that wants to delegate your authority. It wants to centralize it. It wants to surrender power. It wants to give its power away, so that it can enhance the richness of its interactions. So how does sovereignty interplay with that? It's by understanding that you can clean your house. You have the ability to tidy your own house. But do you want to? How rich are your interactions if you're standing firm in that I'm sovereign, I'm independent, so I'm going to clean my own house? There's nothing noble about that. If you have the bandwidth, the capability and the capacity to seek greater richness of interactions in your life, why are you sacrificing bandwidth? You've already proven to yourself you know how to clean a house. You actually want to give away the power to clean your house to someone that wants to have that authority, for someone that wants to take on the responsibility and be appreciated for sharing their gifts with you. Same in business. The solopreneur, classic archetype in the New Zealand ecosystem. So, in the New Zealand innovation ecosystem. So this is really where I want to hone this in on. is that New Zealanders, and this is my observation, my perspective, New Zealanders go so far down rabbit holes. The innovators that I work with on a day-to-day basis, founders of Frontier Innovation, they go so far down rabbit holes. They've all done their 10,000 hours. They're all absolute authorities on their topic. There's no science you're going to find anywhere in the world to validate what they've discovered. But they have tunnel vision. Now, but that's the sacrifice, right? Like with infinity, if you want to focus on a fixed point in time and space to create pressure and to create gravity and movement, then in motion, then what you're sacrificing are all the other points in time and space. So if you want to do your 10,000 hours or 1,000,000 hours, whatever you want to do, and go down your rabbit hole, then the depth that you're able to go is because of the sacrifice of everything outside of that tunnel, you see. So now imagine myself as an innovation advisor. I have a portfolio of founders, all working on stuff, all gone way down their rabbit holes with profound breakthroughs, but they've all gone through a tunnel. They're not aware of anyone else around them. They're not aware of interactions that, if were made possible, would be able to create something utterly extraordinary. And so what we have is we have an innovation ecosystem that's been designed to turn someone whose nature wants to go down rabbit holes and plot new courses and blaze new trails. And the innovation ecosystem is trying to turn someone that wants to go down a rabbit hole into a generalist. Now, why would you want to turn someone whose nature is the complete opposite of being a generalist? Why would you want to turn them into something that they are not? Now, if you're a founder and you're an extremely technical founder and you go down rabbit holes and you're so intelligent and smart that no one can understand what you're saying, and now the innovation ecosystem is forcing you to become an expert in capital raises, funding, finance, commerce, leadership, but you're a product champion. Now, this is how we approach it. This is how we approach it. If you're a fund, you need to de-risk your investment. You're looking for a die-hard founder, someone who's going to sacrifice it all to be successful. When in reality, what's actually going to make that venture successful is a generalist who is as vested as the founder. And, one of my colleagues, I talk to him often about this, and we talk about what we see as the gaps, into the capability gaps in the New Zealand ecosystem. It's a CEO and a COO, and probably a CPO, a chief product officer. Those kind of archetypes. If the Trinity, let's not use that term. The three of those components is like the head. And if you think of how I envisage it, and this is how I build software platforms as well, using the Trinity system, is that you make it headless. So if you've created a business, or you've built innovation or technology, you've built it from the heart. You've built it from the heart and from the soul. That's what's driven it. Not commerce. not commerce, they're feelings and sensations in your body. You've been compelled to act in a specific way. Your curiosity has guided you down this rabbit hole, and you've been so courageous that you've just dived in. Now all of a sudden someone's telling you you have to become something completely different and new in order to succeed. And that's true. But you need the head. You need the combination of the head and the heart. But you want to allow the heart to be the heart, and you want to allow the head to be the head. And the head, for me, from my perspective, is fractional. Well, it doesn't have to be fractional, but for a startup, fractional is ideal. Fractional CEO, fractional COO, fractional CPO. And so then you've got the head following the heart. The head follows the heart. The head doesn't govern, it executes. Now, it obviously informs the heart, but it doesn't govern, it doesn't rule. And this is why, if you look at founders, the founders are the heart. They're the heart of the organization. So if you want to be heart-led as an organization, it has to be founder-led. The impact that you're hoping to make with your innovation, that's something from within you. It's up to you. But often what we see is it becomes head-led, commerce-led, driven by money, driven by commerce. But in truth, the symbiosis of both of those things working together as one is the ideal state. And so, from my perspective, when you have a heart-led organization, it's founder-led, then you have a surrogate head, a temporary head, fractional head plonked on, CEO, COO, CPO, to deliver product market fit, run the alpha and beta testing, commercialize, raise capital, get all the agreements sorted, bring things to market, begin the iterative process, implement an operating model, and establish a critical path, like the critical path that is not deviated from. And then innovation happens on the side, never disrupts the critical path. Then you have an operating model that can be transplanted into, if it's stage gated and you're bringing investment in upon the accomplishment of a specific mission, like let's say it's an increase in valuation from A to B. You have the exit for your early stage founders, for the friends and family raise. They have a yield. The cap table gets cleared for an investor with a bigger appetite. But you have a framework in place that's heart-led. It's founder-led. It's founder-led. You have the head, the temporary head, the fractional head can then be transitioned, and you can hire full-time CEO, COO, CPO, and between the three of them, they should have the ability to build a team around them that scales over time. So really, this is really the essence of why I want to talk about this topic of quantum is to bring us to the understanding that the ideal state is a symbiosis of both, of binary and infinity. The heart is infinite. The heart is never ending. It is unconditional. Curiosity, it's unconditional. It's not dependent. It's not deterministic. It's non-deterministic, in fact. It's random. If I see a bird flying past and it's beautiful, an emotion is evoked. Why? I don't know. I have no clue, in fact. And even more than that, I don't care. I don't care why. It just is. And that is why trying to force a founder to justify their curiosity will never happen. To justify the reason why they're expressing their love into their creation. Don't ask them why. Show them how. Show them how. Doesn't matter why. Doesn't matter why I found that bird beautiful. All that matters is that it is. This is what it is. And this is what I can bring to the table as a virtual CEO, as a virtual COO, as a virtual. Doesn't matter why. And once we can understand the nature of, what separates a founder from an executive. Now, of course, there are hybrids of both. There are founders who make wonderful executives. But execution is literally binary. It's like, it's quantum. Your emotion guides you to create, to innovate, to build, to develop, to orchestrate, to move stuff around non-deterministically. And then execution is binary. It's the packet of infinity. It's measurable, it's tangible, it's linear. We do this, it means that. Once that's done, it then means we can do this. And once we've done that, it means we can then do that. Linear. But innovation is non-deterministic. And so to put the cherry on top and to seal this now, imagine yourself as infinity again. So you close your eyes. You're in total blackness. You're not focusing your awareness onto a fixed point in time and space. Now you imagine reality as it is in your mind's eye. And you look at reality and it's a 2D image. So it's polarized. You can witness the expression of your nature in binary, in your mind's eye. What you actually want is you want to allow the full gamut of both aspects of your nature, the aspect of your nature that is binary and also infinite, you see. Because binary is part of infinity. It's not separate to it. And so the superpower of Trinity is a symbiotic relationship between binary and infinity, expressing itself as a perpetual motion system. So infinity expressing itself in binary so that it demonstrates the characteristics of infinity, such as, it lasts forever, it's never ending, it's invincible, it's immutable, infinite possibility, infinite potential. It has to be a system, a wealth generating system. And that's created by having absolute and total separation, and then the interweaving of those separate base components and elements back into something that becomes singular because of the interdependencies between each base element. So it's wholly binary, totally binary, but interwoven in a way that where the gestalt of those interactions is producing an over-unity system, meaning that the system, whether it's an organization, a software platform, a hardware system, it means that it is perpetually wealth generating. It is perpetuating motion. So there is no scenario within which stagnation can occur. And if stagnation does occur, then there's a vehicle and a mechanism for a lightning bolt or a shock to the system that enforces motion to take place, you see. And so if you bring all these components together, you can build an organization that is founder-led, meaning heart-led, innovation-led, but it is also informed by the head. The head executes, but the heart rules. The heart governs. And it is my belief that this is the symbiotic state where, the decentralized space, whether it be DAOs or, autonomous organizations, that once they understand the benefits of centralization, binary, as well as unity, once they come to appreciate the aspects of infinity and chaos and disorder, in their ability, their capability to collapse the axis of time, then they come to understand that what's required when a creation or innovation comes to a head, no pun intended, when it comes to a head, is that it is wholly divorced from the heart, so that there's space in between that fully formed concept. It is surrendered to the head, and then the head converts it into binary determinism. So a linear path. It establishes a critical path, this, then that, then that, then that. It can be constrained to time and space. We can calculate that by executing this, it's going to take that long. Once we've done that, it means we can do that. It has successfully been birthed out of the unknown, because that which is infinite is non-deterministic, so you can't measure it. It's not quantum. There's no quantity. So unknown. You surrender out from the unknown into the known. Only then can you constrain it to time and space, deterministically, in a linear path, and commit to a specific date. Because we know that if we have a 3-day sprint, we're going to have a fully formed concept. We know that, producing this in Python is going to take X amount of hours because it's been done before. We're using everything that is known. We're not innovating anymore. We're making it real in binary using tools, skills, processes that are known. We establish a critical path, and nothing is ever allowed to disrupt the critical path. So innovation can't come in and knock it off its tracks. Innovation happens within, it until it comes to a head. It's allowed to evolve non-deterministically. And it's not until a fully formed concept is divorced from the infinite and surrendered to the head that it can be committed to linear time and space. So infinity, it wants to be able to use randomness. It wants to be able to use randomness to transcend the limitations of time. If you are creating and you're ideating and innovating, you want to allow curiosity, ideas, randomness to be accommodated and allowed for and focused upon without determinism, without asking why. Why am I having this thought? Why am I having this feeling? Why am I curious about this thing? It has to remain wholly fluid in order for the infinite aspect of your nature to transcend the limitations of time. Because if you question why, then you're trying to make it linear. You're trying to justify it. And justification of something that is unknown is not only impossible, it's futile. And if you ever try to constrain something that is infinite and still fluid, where it's still a stream, it's still formless. If you try to constrain that to linearity too early, it will miscarry. It's inevitable. Now, that's not to say that, and so here's the key component to this working symbiotically is there has to be separation between the head and the heart. They have to operate as sovereign entities. So the execution happens And innovation does not confuse matters. Same with innovation. That the head doesn't come and try and force the innovators to justify why they're innovating. Well, why this or why that? And do not seek to understand that which is not understandable until there is a beginning, a middle, and an ending to that concept. That's when it's surrendered, and the innovators divorce themselves from it wholly. What it becomes from that moment, in order to exist in linear time and space, is up to the executors. The head and heart are separate and symbiotic. And this is how you create over unity. A perpetually wealth-generating system has to accommodate the extremes of the full gamut of experience, of infinity and of binary, of limitation and the infinite. And the gestalt of those two things, working together as one, produces over unity, perpetual motion. And so there's more I want to go into on this topic, and specifically at some point I'm going to talk about applying these principles to running an economy, whereby there's no stagnation of anything allowed, and there's a hard limitation upon the accumulation of wealth and the pooling of assets, so that there is an incentive to deploy or create, at least move wealth around in the system, so that there's never any stagnation. And in context of, the richness of the interaction being the key to life, if the richness of our interactions with our environment, with people, with systems, if the richness of those interactions is the key to life, is the key to the richness of our life, then how can we create an economy that incentivizes us to focus our attention, to have tunnel vision upon enhancing the richness of our interactions? And inherent in that is the desire or the will to create diversity, to create interdependency, and to willfully delegate our authority to others, to surrender control to other human beings. But notice that this is distributed in nature. It's distributing authority, it's distributing power through the act of willfully surrendering that power, you see. So decentralization is not the same as distribution. You can have something that is centralized but is also distributed. And in truth, really, that's where I see perfect harmony existing, contained distribution and willful surrender because of trust. That's caused by trust, because when we trust, surrender just happens. If we truly believe someone is of benevolent intent, we recognize some uniqueness in their nature that is something we don't recognize in ourselves, and we wholly trust that person. Surrender just happens. It's not even a choice. It's not even a choice. So, yep, that's where I'll leave it for now. I will leave it there. That's it for now for the nature of quantum. Talk soon.